stepped off the transport ship, and felt his knees buckle. The gravity on 442C was more than 3 times what he was used to on Earth. Each step felt like carrying 2 other people on his back. His environmental suit beeped warnings about the toxic air outside and the crushing pressure that would kill him in seconds without protection. The mining station stretched out before him like a metal city built into the rocky ground. Massive towers reached up into the orange sky, and thick pipes carried precious metals from deep underground mines. Everything looked bigger and stronger than anything humans built. This was a place made for beings much larger than. "So this is the human they sent us," a voice rumbled above him. Looked up and kept looking up. Commander stood at least 3 meters tall. Her body was covered in hard, dark plates like armor. 4 powerful arms hung at her sides, each one probably strong enough to crush without effort. Her face had sharp angles and clicking mouthparts that made sounds when she talked. Behind her stood the rest of the station crew. There was a being that looked like a walking rock formation with crystal eyes. His skin was actually stone, and he moved with the weight of a small vehicle. Next to him stood 3 workers. They had thick, rubbery skin that could survive in space, and their 6 legs made them stable in any gravity. All of them stared down at. Some made sounds that he guessed were laughter. "Command sent me, mining engineer," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm here for the cooperation program." His mandibles clicked rapidly. Among her people, this meant she was not happy. "Look at you. You barely come up to my waist. Your bones look like they would snap if I touched you. How much do you weigh?" 50 kilos. 62 replied. More laughter from the crew. His laugh sounded like rocks grinding together. "I weigh 800 kilos, he rumbled in a voice like distant thunder. "My children weigh more than you." Walked around like she was examining broken equipment. "Tell me, little human, have you ever worked in real gravity? Have you ever been in an environment that could kill you in one breath? Have you ever done actual work with your soft little hands?" Felt his face getting hot, but he kept calm. "I've worked in asteroid mines, deep ocean rigs, and volcanic extraction sites. I've been doing this job for 8 years. "Playing in human playgrounds," said with a dismissive wave of one of her 4 hands. "This is real work. This planet will kill you just by existing. The gravity will break your bones. The atmosphere will dissolve your lungs. The temperature changes will freeze you and cook you in the same day." She leaned down until her face was level with his helmet. "I give you 1 work cycle, 26 hours. Then you'll be crying to go home like the last 3 humans they sent us." "There were others?" asked. 3 others, all bigger than you. All lasted less than a day. One started crying before he even got off the transport, straightened up. "But command says I have to try to work with you, so I will give you simple jobs, safe jobs, ones that won't kill you immediately." The crew followed as led into the main station building. The corridors were built for beings her size. The ceiling was far above his head, and he felt like a child walking through a building made for adults. Everything was built stronger and heavier than it needed to be. The walls were thick metal that could probably survive explosions. They passed through several work areas, saw mining equipment that was 3 times the size of what humans used. Control panels were positioned high up on the walls, meant for beings with long arms. Even the chairs were too big for him. "This will be your workstation," said, stopping at a small desk pushed into a corner. "You will monitor the air recycling systems from here. Watch the screens. If any numbers turn red, call for help. Do not touch anything else." Looked at the simple displays. This was work that a computer could do automatically. It was clearly busy work, meant to keep him out of the way. "The real mining happens down in the deep shafts," one of them said. "That is where we extract the rare metals that make this station profitable, but that work is too dangerous for soft beings. The pressure down there would crush you flat," added. "The heat would cook you inside your suit. The toxic gases would eat through your equipment." "I understand," said simply. Seemed surprised that he did not argue. "Your quarters are in Section C. Meals are at the times posted on your door. Stay out of restricted areas. Do not wander around alone. This station has many ways to kill careless beings." As the group started to leave, heard them talking among themselves. "He seems calm enough," one said. "They always do at first," replied. "Wait until he realizes what he got himself into. Wait until the gravity starts making his bones ache. Wait until he sees real work being done. Then we'll see how brave the little human really is." "I bet he requests transfer by tomorrow," the said. "I bet he requests transfer tonight," laughed. Sat down at his assigned station and started reading the system displays. The air recycling was working normally. All the numbers were green. He could monitor this system easily while learning about the station's other operations. For the next few hours, watched and learned. He studied the station maps on his personal device. He read technical manuals about the mining equipment. He listened to the radio chatter from the work crews in the deep mines. None of the crew members talked to him. They walked past his station like he was not there. When shift change came, new workers arrived to replace the day crew. They looked at with the same dismissive expressions. "Still here?" one asked. "Still here," replied. As the station settled into night cycle, made his way to his quarters. The corridors were dimmer now, but still busy with workers. The mining never stopped on 442C. His room was small but comfortable. The gravity made him tired faster than normal, but he had expected that. He ate a simple meal and reviewed his notes about the station systems. Tomorrow, he would ask for more challenging work. He would show them what humans could really do. But first, he needed to prove he could survive here, and was very good at surviving. Woke up before the station alarm sounded. His body ached from the heavy gravity, but he had slept better than expected. He put on his environmental suit and checked all the seals carefully. On this planet, a small mistake could mean death. When he arrived at his monitoring station, the night shift crew looked surprised to see him. "You are early," one of the workers said. "Day shift does not start for another hour." "I wanted to review yesterday's reports," replied. He sat down and began reading through the system logs. The air recycling had worked normally all night, but he noticed something interesting in the data patterns. When Commander arrived, she found already working. She stopped and stared at him for a moment, as if she had expected his station to be empty. "Human," she said, "report." "All systems normal, Commander. Air recycling efficiency is at 97%. I noticed a small fluctuation in the filters around midnight, but it corrected itself." Checked her own displays. The fluctuation was so small that most operators would have missed it. "How did you see that? The variance was less than 1%. "I read the detailed logs," said. "Small changes often mean bigger problems are coming." For the first time, looked at with something other than dismissal. "Continue monitoring," she said, and walked away. The day passed quietly. Watched his screens and learned more about the station. He memorized the layouts of the mining tunnels and the locations of emergency equipment. When other workers passed his station, he listened to their conversations about work problems and equipment failures. Near the end of his shift, an alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and the station's speaker system crackled to life. "Emergency in Sector 7. Coolant leak in the main processing unit. All available teams respond." Watched as the crew ran past his station toward the emergency. He pulled up the station schematics on his screen. Sector 7 was deep in the station's core, where the heavy mining equipment processed raw materials. A coolant leak there would be serious. 20 minutes later, his voice came over the radio. "The leak is in the primary heat exchanger. We cannot reach it with our equipment. The access tunnel is too small for our repair teams." Stood up from his station and walked toward Sector 7. When he arrived, he found the entire engineering crew standing around a large piece of equipment. Green coolant was spraying from somewhere inside the machine, and the temperature readings were climbing toward dangerous levels. "The leak is inside the main housing," Chief Engineer explained too. He was a massive being with 6 arms and skin like metal plates. To reach it, someone would need to crawl through the maintenance tunnel, but the tunnel is only 60 centimeters wide. "None of our crew can fit through that space," said. "We will have to shut down the entire system and dismantle the housing. That will take days." Commander said. Everyone turned to look at him. They seemed surprised to see him there. "What do you want, human?" asked. "I can fit through that tunnel," said simply. The crew exchanged looks. Some of them made sounds that might have been laughter. "Absolutely not," said. "That tunnel is filled with toxic coolant vapor. The temperature inside is over 60 degrees Celsius. You would die." "My suit can handle it," said. He had already checked the specifications. "The tunnel is 60 centimeters wide. I'm 58 centimeters at the shoulders. I can fit." "You cannot be serious," rumbled. "That is a death trap. The coolant will eat through your suit seals. The heat will cook you alive." Walked over to the tunnel entrance. It was a round opening that led into the machine's interior. Inside, he could see green vapor swirling in the darkness. "How long to reach the leak?" he asked. "The damaged pipe is about 20 meters in," said reluctantly. "But human, this is not possible. The tunnel has sharp turns. There are obstacles. Even if you survive the journey, you would need to repair the pipe while lying on your back in toxic vapor." "What kind of repair?" asked. Showed him a small clamp device. "This seals around the damaged section, but it requires precise placement and specialized tools." Examined the clamp and the repair tools. They were designed for beings with multiple arms, but he thought he could make them work. "I can do this," he said. "No," said firmly. "I will not send you to die in that tunnel. We will find another way." "Commander, with respect, there is no other way. The system is failing. In 2 hours, the temperature will reach critical levels. The whole processing plant will shut down." Looked around at the assembled crew. All of them were bigger and stronger than him. All of them were better adapted to this harsh environment, but none of them could fit through a 60-centimeter tunnel. "This is what I came here to do," said. "To help with problems that require different solutions." Stared at him for a long moment. Her mandibles clicked rapidly as she thought. "If you go in there and die, Command will blame me," she said finally. "If I don't go in there, the station loses money," replied. "Command will blame you for that too." Stepped forward. "If you are serious about this insane plan, I will need to modify your suit. Add extra cooling and stronger seals." "Do it," said. 30 minutes later, stood at the tunnel entrance wearing a suit that had been quickly rebuilt by the engineering team. Extra coolant tubes ran along his arms and back. A stronger air recycling unit was strapped to his chest. Emergency lights were mounted on his helmet. "Your suit will protect you for maybe 40 minutes, explained. "After that, the seals will start failing. You have one chance to get in, make the repair, and get out." Nodded and attached the repair tools to his belt. He tested his communication system and checked his air supply one more time. Human said, "What is your name?" "If you survive this, I will personally recommend you for hazard pay." Smiled inside his helmet. "Thank you, Commander." He dropped to his hands and knees and crawled into the tunnel. The space was exactly as narrow as advertised. His shoulders almost touched the sides, and he had to keep his arms extended in front of him. The air around him was thick with green vapor that hissed against his suit. Behind him, he heard speaking quietly to her crew. "If he dies in there, we tell Command it was his choice. We tried to stop him." But was already moving deeper into the tunnel, following the sound of escaping coolant toward the leak that needed fixing. For the first time since arriving on the station, he felt like he was doing the job he came here to do. The repair in the coolant tunnel took 38 minutes. When he crawled out, covered in green chemical residue and breathing hard, the entire engineering crew was waiting for him. The leak had stopped, and the temperature readings were dropping back to normal levels. "Impossible," muttered, checking his instruments. "The repair is perfect, better than perfect." Helped to his feet. For the first time, her voice carried something that might have been respect. "That was well done." Word of tunnel repair spread quickly through the station. When he walked through the corridors, other workers looked at him with new interest. Some nodded as he passed. A few even spoke to him. "Heard you crawled through the death tunnel," one said. "Just doing my job," replied. Over the next few days, assignments changed. Instead of just monitoring screens, he was asked to inspect equipment in tight spaces that other workers could not reach. He checked wiring in narrow service shafts, tested systems in crawl spaces, and performed maintenance in areas that had been ignored for years because they were too small for the regular crew. Worked longer shifts than anyone else. While other workers rested in the climate-controlled recreation areas, he studied station blueprints and equipment manuals. He learned the location of every tunnel, every emergency exit, and every piece of safety equipment on the station. 1 week after the coolant repair, was working in the deep equipment bay when the ground began to shake. At first, it was just a small vibration. The massive mining equipment continued working normally and the crew barely noticed, but had felt earthquakes before and this felt different. The shaking grew stronger. "Seismic activity," he called out to the work supervisor. "This might be serious." Before anyone could respond, the real earthquake hit. The ground bucked like a living thing. Equipment fell from shelves and crashed to the floor. Warning lights began flashing throughout the station. The deep mining operations automatically shut down as safety systems engaged. The earthquake lasted for 2 minutes. When it finally stopped, emergency alarms were wailing from every speaker in the station. Ran toward the main control room with the other workers. Commander was already there, coordinating damage reports from all sections of the station. "Surface facilities are intact," one operator reported. "Minor damage to the processing plants." "What about the mines?" demanded. "Checking now, Commander. Deep Shaft 7 shows structural damage. Shaft 12 has lost communication." Studied the mining layout on the main display. Shaft 12 was the deepest excavation on the station, reaching almost a kilometer underground. It was also the most profitable, producing rare metals that were worth more than gold. "Commander," the communications operator said, his voice tight with worry. "I'm getting emergency beacon signals from Shaft 12. 3 workers were down there when the earthquake hit." "Who?" asked. "Land." Saw's mandibles stopped clicking. Was her brother. "Send down the rescue teams immediately," she ordered. "Commander, the main elevator is damaged. The backup lift cannot carry our rescue equipment. The shaft walls have partially collapsed." "Then we go down manually. Repelling gear, emergency supports, whatever it takes." The chief of mine operations, a massive being called, shook his head. "Commander, I've studied the sensor readings. The shaft is unstable. Any significant weight or vibration could cause a complete collapse. Our rescue teams are too heavy. Our equipment is too heavy. If we try a standard rescue, we might bring down the entire tunnel." Stepped forward. "What about the emergency tunnels, the ones built for evacuation?" Pulled up another display. "The emergency routes connect to Shaft 12 at the 500-meter level. But look at this." He pointed to red sections on the schematic. "The earthquake damaged the connections. There are gaps in the tunnel structure. Some sections are flooded with toxic runoff from the processing levels above." "How big are these gaps?" asked. "The largest is about 3 meters across. But that's not the real problem. The emergency tunnels were built for rapid evacuation by our larger crew members. They're wider than normal passages, but they run through areas that are now filled with poisonous gas and corrosive chemicals. Studied the route carefully. What's the smallest opening I would need to get through? Said sharply, what are you thinking? Someone needs to reach those workers. The emergency route is the only way. But your rescue teams can't survive the conditions, and they're too big to fit through the damaged sections. And you think you can? Asked. I think I'm the only option we have. 4 arms crossed in front of her chest. Absolutely not. I already let you risk your life once this week. I will not send you into a death trap. Commander, your brother is down there. I know exactly who is down there. His voice rose to a shout. Which is why I cannot think clearly about this, but sending you down there is not rescue, it is suicide. Pointed to the schematic. Look at the route. The emergency tunnel drops 500 meters through zones with different atmospheric conditions. The workers down there have been breathing who knows what for hours. Even if your rescue teams could reach them, they might not survive the time it would take to set up a proper operation. The human is right, admitted reluctantly. Standard rescue protocols would take at least 12 hours to implement safely. That assumes we can stabilize the shaft, which might not be possible. But the emergency route could be traversed in 2 hours, continued. 1 hour down, 1 hour back up. If I can reach them and confirm they're alive, you can focus your rescue efforts more effectively. Turned to face the main display. Could see her reflection in the screen, her alien features tight with worry and frustration. Describe the route conditions, she said quietly. Highlighted different sections of the tunnel system. First 500 meters are through normal station atmosphere, but with unstable support structures. Next section drops through the chemical processing levels, toxic atmosphere, corrosive residue on the walls, temperature near boiling point. Final section is flooded with acidic runoff from the mining operations. That last part would dissolve my suit in minutes, said. Exactly why this plan is insane, replied. Not if I have the right equipment. Your engineers modified my suit for the coolant repair. They can modify it again. Turn to address the entire room. Everyone here knows I'm not the biggest or strongest member of this crew, but I'm the only one who can fit through those damaged tunnels. I'm the only one with a chance of reaching your people before they die down there. The control room fell silent except for the continued blaring of emergency alarms. Everyone looked at Commander, waiting for her decision. Finally, she turned around. If I authorize this and you die down there, I lose my brother and the human that Command sent me to protect. If you don't authorize this, you definitely lose your brother, replied, and probably the other 2 workers as well. Closed her eyes and stood motionless for a long moment. When she opened them again, her voice was steady and controlled. Chief, how quickly can you modify this environmental suit for extreme corrosive conditions? 1 hour, Commander, maybe less. Do it. I want every sensor focused on that tunnel route. If there's any sign of further collapse, we abort the mission immediately. She walked over to and looked down at him. You have 2 hours. Reach them, confirm their status, and get back here alive. Do not attempt any rescue on your own. Your job is information gathering only. Understood, Commander. And if you die down there, I will personally file a complaint with your command about sending me defective equipment. Despite everything, smiled. I'll try not to break, Commander. Stood at the entrance to Emergency Tunnel 7 wearing a suit that looked like it had been built by someone's nightmare. Chief had covered every surface with extra protection. Acid-resistant coating covered the outer shell. Additional air scrubbers were attached to his back. Emergency power cells were strapped to his legs. He looked like a walking piece of mining equipment. Your suit will protect you for 90 minutes in the worst conditions, explained. After that, the acid protection starts breaking down. Your air supply is good for 4 hours, but if you're down there that long, you're probably dead anyway. Tested his movement. The extra equipment made him heavier, but he could still fit through narrow spaces. Communication. Radio will work for the first section. After that, you'll be on your own. Too much interference from the chemical levels. Commander approached with a small device in one of her hands. Emergency beacon. Press this if you need immediate extraction. We'll try to reach you, but I cannot promise success. Clipped the beacon to his belt next to his other equipment. Medical supplies, cutting tools, emergency lights, and repair materials. Everything he might need to help 3 trapped workers. Remember, said, information gathering only, do not attempt rescue. Nodded, but they both knew that once he was down there, he would make his own decisions about what needed to be done. The first section of the emergency tunnel was almost easy, moved quickly through passages that were damaged but still safe. Broken support beams blocked parts of the route, but there was always enough space for him to squeeze through. His small size was an advantage here, just as it had been in the coolant tunnel. After 20 minutes, he reached the first major obstacle. The tunnel ahead was filled with twisted metal and broken rock. A gap near the ceiling looked big enough for him to crawl through, but barely. To control, he spoke into his radio. First major blockage, I can get through, but it's tight. Proceed with caution, Kame's voice. Structural sensors show that area is still unstable. Squeezed through the gap, feeling the sharp edges of broken metal scrape against his suit. On the other side, the tunnel continued downward at a steep angle. He switched on his emergency lights and kept moving. The second section was where things got serious. As soon as entered the chemical processing level, his suit's warning systems began beeping constantly. The air around him was thick with toxic vapor that would kill him instantly without protection. The walls were covered with acidic residue that hissed when his lights touched it. The heat was incredible. Even with his suit's cooling system running at maximum, felt like he was crawling through an oven. Sweat poured down his face inside his helmet, and his breathing became labored. Halfway through this section, his worst fear came true. The tunnel ahead was completely blocked by collapsed debris, but there was another route, a maintenance shaft that dropped straight down through the chemical tanks. Looked down into the shaft. It was like staring into a toxic waterfall. Green and orange chemicals poured down the walls and the air shimmered with heat. At the bottom, barely visible through the vapor, he could see where the tunnel continued. This is insane, he muttered to himself. But the workers had been trapped for almost 3 hours now. Every minute he delayed was a minute closer to them dying. Attached a repelling line to a solid beam and started lowering himself into the chemical shower. The acid immediately began eating at his suit's outer coating, but its modifications held. For now. The descent felt like hours, but it was probably only minutes. When reached the bottom, he was covered in chemical residue that bubbled and hissed. His suit systems were screaming warnings about contamination, but the seals were still holding. The final section was flooded, waded into acidic water that came up to his chest. The liquid ate at everything it touched, and he could see small holes beginning to form in his suit's legs. He had to move fast. Swimming through the toxic flood, followed emergency lighting toward the main shaft. The water got deeper, forcing him to dive completely under the surface. In the acidic darkness, he relied on touch and his suit's proximity sensors to find his way. When he finally surfaced in the main mining shaft, was gasping for air and his suit was failing in multiple places. But he had made it. He was 800 meters underground, in a partially collapsed mine, surrounded by toxic gas and corrosive chemicals. And somewhere nearby were 3 workers who needed help. Followed emergency beacon signals to a small chamber carved into the rock wall. Inside, he found them. His brother was unconscious but breathing. His massive frame was crammed into the small space. Had a broken leg and was barely conscious. The youngest of the group was awake but had inhaled toxic gas and was coughing up blood. "Human," croaked when he saw, "how did you get here?" "Emergency tunnel," replied, checking their conditions. "How long do you have on your air supplies?" "Maybe 20 minutes," whispered. "Our equipment was damaged in the collapse. We've been sharing one air unit between the three of us." Looked at his 3 emergency air tanks. Each one could supply a large alien for about 40 minutes, but getting them back to the surface would take at least an hour, and that was if everything went perfectly. The math was simple and terrible. 3 workers, 3 air tanks, and a route that would take longer than the air would last. Even if used his own air supply to help them, there wasn't enough. Unless he made multiple trips. "Listen to me, I'm going to take first. He's unconscious, so he'll need the most help. Then I'll come back for then you." "That's impossible," said. "The tunnel route you used, no one could survive it 3 times." Was already connecting one of his emergency air tanks to suit. "I'm not no one. I'm human." He activated his radio beacon to let the surface know he had found survivors. Then he hoisted onto his back. The alien weighed more than twice what did, but adrenaline and determination made it possible. The return trip with an unconscious passenger was nightmare beyond description. Crawled through the flooded tunnel with dead weight pressing him down into the acidic water. He climbed up the chemical shaft while carrying someone 3 times his size, the acid eating through his suit's remaining protection. When he finally reached the safe zone, was barely conscious himself, but he laid down gently and checked his breathing. Still alive. "1 down," gasped, 2 to go. The second trip was harder. Was conscious but had a broken leg, so he could help a little. But suit was failing completely now. The acid had eaten through the outer protection, and several of his systems had stopped working. The third trip nearly killed him. By the time reached, his suit was held together mostly by determination and luck. The acidic water had reached his inner layers, and he could feel the chemicals burning his skin. But he got out. All 3 workers survived because a small human was willing to make an impossible journey 3 times through conditions that should have killed him. When emerged from the emergency tunnel for the final time, carrying on his back, his suit fell apart completely. The medical team rushed forward to help both of them but waved them toward first. "Take care of him," whispered before collapsing. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Commander staring down at him, with an expression he had never seen on an alien face before. It looked like awe. Woke up in the medical bay 3 days later. His body was covered in chemical burns and his lungs felt like he had been breathing fire. But he was alive. The first thing he saw was Commander sitting beside his bed. She had been there for hours, watching him sleep. When their eyes met, she made a sound that had never heard from her before. It sounded like relief. "How are the others?" asked, his voice rough. "Alive, all 3 of them because of you," leaned forward. "The doctors say you should have died in that tunnel. Your suit failed completely. You were exposed to chemicals that would kill most beings in minutes, yet you made 3 trips." Tried to sit up, but his body protested painfully. "I told them I would get everyone out." "No," said firmly. "I told you to gather information. I specifically ordered you not to attempt rescue. You disobeyed my direct command." Looked at her, trying to read her alien expression. "Are you going to write me up for insubordination?" Mandibles clicked in what now recognized as something like laughter. "I am going to recommend you for the Galactic Mining Safety Award, and a promotion, and hazard pay for the rest of your assignment here." Over the next few days, as recovered, word of his rescue spread throughout the station and beyond. Workers who had barely noticed him before came to visit. Some brought food from their home worlds. Others brought small gifts or tokens of respect. The massive being who had mocked weight on his first day brought a piece of crystal from his peoples. "This represents strength that cannot be broken," he said solemnly. "Like you, small human." The workers performed a traditional ceremony honoring as a tunnel crawler who brings life from darkness. They painted symbols on his door that meant hero in their language. Even Chief, who rarely spoke to anyone outside of work, spent an afternoon teaching advanced engineering techniques. "You have earned the right to work on the important systems," he said. But it was his brother who affected the most. When the big alien was finally able to leave the medical bay, he came directly to see. "Human," he said formally, "I owe you a life debt. In our culture, this means I am bound to serve you until the debt is repaid." "That's not necessary," said. "It is necessary," replied. "You carried me through hell when you could have saved only yourself. You risked everything for someone who had treated you as unworthy. This is not just about debt. This is about honor." On his final day of recovery, Commander came to his room with official papers in her hands. "Your assignment here was for 6 months," she said. "It has been 4 weeks. Command has sent orders for your next posting. You are to transfer to the luxury mining station at 7. Climate-controlled environment, standard gravity, human-compatible facilities." Looked at the transfer orders. 7 was everything that 442C was not. Safe, comfortable, easy, perfect for humans. "Congratulations," continued. "You survived your time with us. You can now work in conditions suitable for your species." "When does the transport arrive?" "Tomorrow morning. You should pack your belongings." Nodded and took the papers, but something in his voice made him look at her more carefully. Her usual confidence seemed forced. That evening, walked through the station corridors for what he thought might be the last time. Workers nodded to him as he passed. Some stopped to talk about the rescue or to ask about his injuries. For the first time since arriving, felt like he belonged here. He found himself in the observation deck, looking out at the harsh orange landscape of 442C. The planet was trying to kill everything on it every moment of every day. But there was something beautiful about surviving in such a place. Something meaningful about doing work that mattered in conditions that tested everything you had. "I thought I might find you here." Turned to see Commander approaching. She moved differently than she had 4 weeks ago. Less like a superior talking to inferior equipment, more like someone approaching a respected colleague. "Enjoying your last view of our lovely world?" she asked. "It's grown on me," admitted. Stood beside him at the observation window. They watched the mining equipment working in the distance, extracting precious metals from the hostile ground. She said quietly, "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For everything. For treating you like broken equipment from the moment you arrived. For assuming you were weak because you were small. For thinking humans were inferior because you looked different from us." His 4 hands clasped behind her back, a gesture that indicated deep emotion among her people. "When Command first told me they were sending a human, I was insulted. I thought they were punishing me, sending me someone useless who would just get in the way. When I saw you step off that transport, so small and fragile looking, I was certain I was right." "I probably did look pretty pathetic," said. "No, you looked different, and I was too stupid and too proud to understand the difference." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the alien sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. Said, her voice becoming formal, "I have a request to make." "What kind of request?" Turned to face him fully. Then, to his complete shock, she dropped to one knee. For a being of her size and status, this was an enormous gesture of humility. "I request that you cancel your transfer and remain on this station as my senior engineering specialist." Stared at her. "Commander, what are you doing?" "I am asking you to stay. No, I am begging you to stay." Her voice carried an emotion that had never heard from her before, something that sounded like desperation. "But the transfer orders can be canceled if both of us request it. I have learned something about leadership in the past month. A good commander surrounds herself with the best people available, and you, are the best person I have ever worked with." Felt his throat tighten. "Commander, I appreciate the offer, but—" "Let me finish," interrupted. "When you first arrived, I thought strength meant size and power. I thought competence meant being adapted for harsh conditions. I was wrong about everything." She gestured toward the mining operations outside. "This station processes more valuable materials than any other facility in this sector. But all of our strength and size and natural adaptation means nothing if we cannot reach our people when they are in trouble. It means nothing if we cannot fit into the spaces where the real work happens." "You have good people here," said. "I have large people here, strong people, tough people, but I do not have people who will crawl through hell 3 times to save workers who treated them badly on their first day." Stood up, towering over again, but now her size seemed protective rather than intimidating. "You are not too small to endure here. We are too weak to deserve you. But if you will have us, if you will stay with us, I promise you will be treated with the respect and honor you have earned." Looked around the observation deck. Through the windows, he could see the lights of the mining operation, the glow of the processing plants, the daily miracle of intelligent beings making a living on a world that wanted them dead. "What would my duties be?" he asked. "Whatever needs to be done. Tunnels that need crawling through. Problems that need creative solutions. Impossible rescues that require someone willing to do the impossible." "And the pay?" "Triple what Command was offering you at 7, plus hazard pay, plus a signing bonus." Smiled. "You really want me to stay?" "I really want you to stay. Not just me, everyone on this station. Says he will transfer to another facility if you leave. Half the engineering crew has submitted the same request. They want to work with you. They want to learn from you." Thought about 7. Climate-controlled corridors, standard gravity safety protocols designed for humans. It would be comfortable, easy, safe. Then he thought about the past month. The coolant tunnel repair that no one else could do. The impossible rescue that saved 3 lives. The respect he had earned by proving that different could be better than big. "Commander," he said, "I'll need to send a message to Command explaining why I'm canceling my transfer." Mandibles clicked rapidly with joy. "What will you tell them?" Looked out at the hostile, beautiful, dangerous world that had become his home. "I'll tell them I found a place where being too small to endure turned out to be exactly the right size to help." "Welcome home," Commander said. "Thank you, Commander. Now, what impossible thing do you need me to do next?" Outside the observation window, the mining operations continued under the alien stars. And inside the station, a small human and a large alien began planning tomorrow's work, proving that the best teams are built not from similarity, but from understanding that everyone brings something valuable to the job, even when that something is being too small to endure, until the moment when being small is exactly what everyone needs.